Robertson, who was quite brilliant in the opening round. Jones, very impressive himself. So this is going to be fascinating. It's only their fourth meeting, I should say. Previous three fairly low-key. A couple of European Tour meetings and one at the Gibraltar Open. Jack Jones getting us underway. 8 frames in this first session. Of course, now it's the best of 25, the first of 13 to go through to the quarterfinals. And Jones has won 2 of those previous 3 encounters. Clearly, a World Championship match over this distance is a completely different proposition, but it's got to help that Jones has played Robertson before and has beaten him before. And the way in which he scored and held himself under pressure, Neil, in the key moments against Ali Carter, who, lest we forget, has had a terrific season, winning a title, business end of a number of other tournaments, was impressive.
Yes, very impressive. And like you say, he has a victory. He has gained success before over Neil Robertson, but this very great venue and over a long match. He's an underdog. There's no getting away from it. He's an underdog in this match. And I think he's got to get an early foothold
this morning. May I just ask you to turn down a bit, please? Thank you.
Into the game, into the match by winning frames here. This first session is, you can be a little numb is not quite the right word, but if you're not used to long matches, the first session you can't see the winning line, so either go out and express yourself, play brilliantly, or you can sometimes be sort of not completely fired up for it. Robertson will know all about how it works, and there'll be no sort of change for him. He knows exactly what's required.
Robertson averaged 84 points a frame in that victory over Wu Yize. 4 centuries in all, 2 of them, of course, 146 breaks, since eclipsed by Kyron Wilson's maximum, but he looked back to his very best. It's been, by Robertson standards, a quiet season. 3 semi-finals in ranking events, but he said ahead of this championship that the time that he had off as a result of not making the Players' Series events, the Players' Championship for the top 16, the Tour Championship for the top 8, both of which he won last season, allowed him to prepare, and he feels as though he's never been in better shape for a tilt at another world title than he is this year, and certainly his performance in the first round would suggest that those words are accurate.
Well, I mean, you'd say that his performance in the first round was the pick of the round. Certainly it felt that way, but then Kyron Wilson with a 147 and 4 other centuries probably eclipsed that. Either way, they're both in the same section of the draw. Same half of the draw anyway. So, yeah, there's been some pretty spellbinding performances already from certain players with, a long way to go, clearly. Anyway, he's pushed that red quite close to the left corner.
He's making his 19th Crucible appearance, Robertson. Of course, he went all the way to the title in 2010. I guess the key match was the second round when he was 11-5 down to Martin Gould overnight. Was expecting not to come back in that match. Checked out of his hotel. Eventually won 13-12. And went on to beat Graham Dott for the title.
Well, he just played it plain ball. Thought, well, I'll just try and pot the ball and see what else happens. He clipped that first red, then the side of the bunch. Didn't go in off, but the cue ball quite close to the left middle. It's a very long championship, isn't it? And you think about that these players now faced with 2 best of 25 frame matches to get to the semi-finals, and that, in Stephen Hendry's words, was always when the tournament started, the championship, when you get to the semis, because then you've got a 3-day match and a first to 17 and the first to 18 final. So, we're not really anywhere near sort of the meat of the event, are we yet? And that's why when people talk about shock winners of the whole thing, it's quite hard to see that very often because there's so much you've got to go through.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to win 36 frames to get to the one table setup, and you've got to win a further 35 from there to lift the trophy. So you are basically only halfway come the semi-finals. And of course, Robertson's only been there once since he won the tournament, which is a surprise to most, given his caliber, given what he's won elsewhere. 23 ranking titles now. 3 UKs, couple of Masters, couple of Champion of Champions, but for whatever reason, he's not produced his best here at the Crucible as often as he would have liked since 2010. The irony being that this season he is somewhat under the radar because of the fact that he's had a quiet campaign. And it's probably the first time that he has been in many seasons. Last season, he was the player of the season coming in, and many people's tipped to win it. Of course, he lost in the second round to Lazowski. I remember in 2019, Sean Murphy said after he lost to him early in the piece that you should get the engravers sorting his name out on the trophy straight away because there's no way he wasn't going to win it. Well, he lost in the quarterfinals that year to Higgins. But maybe this time, Neil, given that he hasn't come in with a lot of fanfare, he'll finally land that second title.
Well, either that or fanfare or just the fact that he's had a quiet season and he's fresh and he's able to work on his game for a month rather than playing those events. That first attempt was, I mean, it was nowhere near. Obviously, you think he just grazed the bottom jaw of the right middle. This is a better line. Yeah, red first. Well spotted there, Olivier. Absolutely. I beg your pardon. Marcel Eckhart was absolutely on top of that. Yeah, I mean, those Players Series events are very good. I mean, you've got the World Grand Prix in January. I think it'll be again next time. Then the 16-man event, the Players, followed by the Tour. Robertson won both of the latter two Players and Tour last year. Didn't win at Sheffield or look like winning in the end. Lost to Jack, as you said. The player of the Tour events this year, Players and Tour event, was Sean Murphy. Beaten last night here. So as good as it is to win them, it's not necessarily, in fact, it's no pointer for who wins at Sheffield. It's almost like you've played all your best snooker, come into it. People say, well, you know, snooker's not like running marathons and peaks or anything like that, but it is hard to get your game back when you've been playing well and you just lose that edge. You can't just retrieve it. You almost need a break from the game and start afresh. And Robertson certainly comes here fresher than he's been for years due to lack of success this season.
Jones came through 3 qualifying rounds to make his debut. Adam Duffy. And then a really tough one with Robbie Williams, which went to a decider. Made a 77 break to clinch that match. And then, of course, Barry Hawkins. 10-8 to get here. So he's already had 4 fine victories. Well and truly battle-hardened.
A safety shot down the left of the table here. Obviously, the black might be in play. You'd like to think that he could get the cube around the back of it. Back up the table himself.
Both players just feeling their way into this opening frame. Robertson, although he lost to Lazowski last year, did have the significant consolation of making a maximum break. The 8th player to achieve it here at the Crucible.
Looks a good area, doesn't it? He's landed in there. Oh yes, there's a red to the right, but there's not much else that Jack Jones can hit. Certainly escape from. Might want to play the containing shot cue ball on the black cushion, but I'm not even sure that's very easy from there, with the red along the cushion, possibly in the left corner.
Jones comes into this World Championship ranked at 52 in the world, although provisionally he's now up to 44. And in fact, will have gone higher in clinching that victory over Carter. Guaranteed 30,000 ranking points now. Oh, that's a terrific pot, and we saw plenty of that against Carter. Really excellent long potting. So after a bit of a phony war at the start of this opening frame, an opportunity for the Welshman, for a European amateur champion. His best ranking performance came at the Gibraltar Open back in 2022 when he made the semi-finals, losing to eventual champion Rob Milkins.
7.
But it just feels as though his game is very much on an upward trajectory. He seems to have all the tools, and his game feels like it fits very well with this Crucible Theatre. He's got a good temperament, not easily phased. He looks like the sort of player who would be well suited to these uniquely long matches.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this championship, he was quite near the bottom of the average shot times, I noticed. About in the 120s. So he is a little on the slow side, although he didn't play slowly in that last match. I think he's a better player when he speeds up a bit. Obviously, everyone's got their sort of time on the shot they're most comfortable with. But generally, he isn't missing very much at all in those qualifiers towards the end. And with the match with Ali Carter, where he was really good.
Yes, and although he's not by any means one of the quicker players on the tour, one thing that is very noticeable about him is that he's an aggressive player. He goes for his shots. He's prepared to take risks if there is a tangible reward at the end of it. He's not a defensive player. Certainly not on the evidence of what we've seen
16.
in the World Championship so far, both in qualifying and against Ali Carter.
Just on those average shot times, 130 players listed as tour players. He is down at 123. So he is undeniably one of the slowest players on the tour. 29.90 is his average shot times, and that's based over the whole season of 31 matches. So they're not just plucking a number out of thin air with a small sample size. But like I say, everyone's got their own way of playing, and this is a good effort. He looks unlucky there to me, if he's not on one. Maybe he's got a red to the middle, in fact. Incidentally, the slowest player on the tour is close couple, Anthony Hamilton and Anton Kazakov in the top end. While we're at it, Ronnie O'Sullivan, would you believe? 47 years of age, world champion, the quickest, followed by Tepchai Anu. And lots of players somewhere in between, of course. But at the moment, what he's doing very well, Jack Jones.
Well, the shot into the bunch was an example of what I've been talking about. He's not afraid to go for his shots. He might take a bit more time thinking about them, but when he commits, he really does fully embrace the shot that he's playing. And he's prepared to leave one for his opponent if he thinks that by getting it, even if it's difficult, he could make a big break.
It's another very good shot. I mean, look, he didn't play exactly that, but he played into an area to try and make things happen. And this is what he's doing so well. He is making things happen. Yeah, and that really has opened things up. It was doubtful as to whether he was actually on it, but clearly he was. So he's kind of continuing where he left off against Carter, measured, very accurate with his pots. Won't be hurried into anything. He's turning into a pretty good match player, very good in fact.
Well, that's clearly gone wrong with the unintended cannon, leaving the cue ball well away from the reds.
He had a good look at it as well, didn't he? The line he needed, but he had a little bit of left-hand check on the cue ball, so it crashed into the green on the way back down. So after a lot of promise, this break has not amounted to, frame-changing numbers. Not yet. Looks like he's playing safe. And he will have to score big, and that's the other thing, as solid and secure and measured as he is, he will have to score to beat Robertson. I don't see any way you can be the top player unless you continually make the breaks and win the frames when the chances come your way.
He made 7 breaks of over 60, including a century and 3 70-plus contributions against Carter. And he's left this red for Robertson. Just the safety.
It's a little bit of news from the other table. Mark Williams has gone back to the old rolling in the back of the bunch break. I don't think he did that yesterday, to my knowledge. Maybe Luca Brissell is just slotting too many in. So he's gone back to the old way of breaking off that he was doing, I think, the championship a couple of years ago, in fact, now.
Yes, perhaps mindful of Brissell's ability from long range, and he can be devastating, Brissell, because he doesn't hold back with his long pots. But Williams has taken the first frame on the resumption there with a break of 62 to lead 5-4. The winner of that will play the winner of the match that gets underway this afternoon here on Eurosport 1. Ronnie O'Sullivan and Hossein Vafai. This match continues this evening from 7 o'clock UK time. They play to a finish tomorrow. That's the afternoon session. Yes, inevitably, those average shot times will come down once the match really gets underway. At the moment, quite a few safeties being played. That one has gone wrong for Jones.
And a miss near Robertson.
Yeah, I mean, you need frames for that too. I mean, you might have the most difficult shot you'll ever play in your life at the start of a match, and you could be looking at it for 2 minutes. But so they need to be evened out over a spell, don't they? That's why those ones over the whole season, are as close to the truth as you're ever going to get, really, about a player's average shot times.
Set fine.
It's about a quarter ball towards yourself.
Talking about the yellow.
Yes.
Marcel Eckhart just getting a bit of help.
And the cue ball is fractionally towards the ball.
Leo Scullion doing the marking.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah.
This frame proving to be a slow burner then. Coming up to 23 minutes. Still 9 reds there. Oh, mistake. Now that could be costly.
Yes, the last couple of safety shots, Jack Jones has been put in trouble by Robertson. And Robertson will now be looking to exploit that with the opportunity here. Trying to move thinking about moving the red by the black. If he gets the cannon right, it'll be on the black for sure, but it's one of those, you've got to catch the right quarter of the red, be on the black. It's a dream shot, really. He'd love to play it, but if it goes wrong, all that safety is counted for very little. I think the shot's there. It looks an absolute natural, but it's still not an easy shot to play. He can get a little bit studious, Robertson, in matches. Doesn't want to get into that mode very early in the match.
He's been a bit unlucky, actually, this season. In those 3 semi-finals he's contested, all of his opponents played out of their skin against him. Well, he gave that a lot of thought, but to no avail. So, slightly scratchy start this from arguably the player of the first round.
Early signs not good. He spent a long time looking at a shot he wanted to play, took the safe option and missed it straight away. So, he's decided to go cautiously, and that didn't work either. So he needs to get his hand on the table and in these very early stages and give himself a chance.
Mark Selby beat Robertson in the last 4 of the English Open, which was significant because Robertson had owned Selby in their previous 7 meetings. Joe O'Connor was quite brilliant in defeating him in the Scottish Open semis. And of course, Mark Allen, the player of the season, beat him in Belfast. So the miss, not expensive, and this is turning into a bit of a grind, this opening frame.
Yeah, there you saw him. He's looking to get the cue ball right back out of harm's way, except play up on the blue. So there's a lot of caution in the air, I think, on this table this morning.
It's more like it from Robertson.
1.
Arguably the best long potter of all time. Certainly Ronnie O'Sullivan is of the view he has the best cue action in terms of its reliability, its technical excellence.
Coming all around the angles here.
Four.
I think as a left-hander, a tall left-hander, he might be able to reach this. It's not too much of a stretch. Good shot that to finish top side of the blue. So might just be in business here, but he's a few behind with work to do in the frame. Just looking at the possibility of getting on the black from somewhere over there, and that would be very good for him to get the black back on its own spot. More overthinking from Robertson. When he could have played up on the blue and continued, I mean, why did he really? I mean, he wouldn't play the other cannon earlier, but he ended up playing this one when he could have played up 3 or 4 blues. So it's in danger of overcomplicating a simple game here in the early exchanges.
Neil Robertson, 11.
So there are 67 remaining on the table. Make that 75, although of course the black is currently tied up by one of those reds. Quite cagey, tense stuff, isn't it, for the first frame of what could be 25 in this match? Good cue ball, though, from Robertson to keep the pressure on Jones, who's had a couple of chances already. "30 minutes and counting." The winner to play, the Mark Allen or Stuart Bingham. They're back underway this afternoon from 2:30 with Allen having edged the session 5-3.
One.
Good red, but not great on a colour. One of those frames that's been a bit of a struggle, both players thus far. Jack Jones was in on a break, but then got an unintended cannon in playing in and out of baulk, and then after Robertson missed a red, Jones was unable to capitalise. We've already had 2 frames come and go on table 1. Mark Williams has extended his lead to 6-4 now, so both frames going Williams' way on the resumption against Luca Brissell. Of course, that's on Discovery Plus.
Randall. Near Robertson. One.
Robertson aiming for his 10th Crucible quarter-final. He's been in 4 since he made the semis in 2014, losing what was a great match with Mark Selby, 17-15, but of course hasn't been back to the one-table setup since. Very scrappy stuff in this opening frame. I mean, there has been this theory, hasn't there, that the reason Robertson hasn't done better at the Crucible since he won it, and specifically hasn't reached the one-table setup more than once, is that the way in which he cues and the way in which he sets himself up to cue each time is somewhat hampered by the dividing wall here. And we know that it's a very cramped atmosphere, very cramped environment at the Crucible. But then you see, for example, how he played against Wu Yiza, and you think, well, does that theory really hold water?
No, the answer is no, isn't it? You know, he had the 147 there last year. He had, as you say, the 2 146 breaks. It was a sensational game. There's nothing in what he's saying. I think he probably would enjoy to be on the one table. He's not been there for such a long time, 9 years.
Yeah, that's indicative of the fact that Robertson has been mainly playing safeties so far. He's obviously a lot quicker than that ordinarily. Operates at around 23.5 seconds a shot for the season. Jones, as we know, is closer to 30 seconds per shot as an average. That was a good red to get back in. Even though this frame has been very scrappy, the balls are still pretty open.
Chance to win the frame here.
6.
It's been slightly the more positive of the two. You know, a long opener, but this is a good chance. 18 in front already. With these to come.
7.
And you feel with Robertson clearly not having settled into his stride at all yet, these are the frames that Jack Jones is going to have to win if he's to have a chance of causing an upset in this match. He's got to win his share of the scrappy frames.
14.
This blue, a red, another high value colour should be enough.
$20. 21.
Yeah, but the other red, if he could land behind it, Robertson might not carry on. He would do if Jack Jones didn't end the frame basically here with potting the red. Good effort this. It's gone around the back. A bit unlucky, but he's still got the shot. It's quite well played, that blue. 38 the difference, and it is one snooker.
Jack Jones.
So the frame far from dead. Robertson only needs that one snooker with Jones missing the red. It's been a bit of a trial for both of them, this frame, really. Robertson in particular. Coming up to 40 minutes in length.
Well, the balls are very good for getting snookers, but Jack Jones could do with just ending the frame now, because it would be quite a, well, very disappointing to have a 40-plus minute frame, which you end up losing when your opponent needs a snooker. But just get the feeling it could happen here with the right shot from Robertson. Well, he's a bit unlucky there. I mean, obviously you've got the snooker, but it's simple. Whereas behind the green, now that was, you're talking a little bit different then, because he wouldn't have had the immediate way of going up and down the table. Well, that is a snooker, and that is one that has got to be hit. As I say, you could sense that there is still danger in this frame. And it's so important to pot the ball after the snooker's a required pot. I suspect he will hit this, but I tell you, it's not simple. When you've got a ball that you're trying to hit in the middle of the table, then it's not so easy as hitting one that's fairly close to a cushion. Oh, we hit it. We've already been off. A lot of things happened there that could have gone wrong. Wow. I mean, look, he hit the ball, so all credit to him, but it was quite precarious. Nearly went in off. Now Robertson's missed.
Foul. Jack Jones, 5, and the first round.
And Neil Robertson's conceded. Well, it was a very scrappy affair. Quite a tentative opening to this second round match, but it's the underdog from South Wales, Jack Jones, who has the frame. He leads Neil Robertson 1-0.
Something to find that. I love it when they call me out. I love it when they give me stick. I just love it.
He is what he is, you know. He's such a nice person. Then he's just
don't rattle my cage. I can just sort of have a reason to perform, I suppose.
It's better to don't say anymore.
We'll see. But we'll have some fun.
The seventh day of the World Championship is underway, and the action underway here on table 2. Second round encounter, Neil Robertson, 2010 World Champion, against the Welsh debutant this year, Jack Jones. And Jones has taken a protracted opening frame that lasted 43 minutes and change. Neil Robertson tried to get the snooker he needed. He laid one. Jones got out of it and snookered Robertson back. Robertson missed and conceded. So 1-0 to Jones. We've got 7 more scheduled in this first session. They're back this evening for session 2 from 7 o'clock UK time. They play to a finish from 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. 13 is the target. The winner to play the Mark Allen or Stuart Bingham in the quarterfinals. Their 3 previous matches were all over the best of 7 frames. Jones won 2 of them, most recently the Gibraltar Open last year. Robertson's solitary win on the old European Tour, and that was 9 years ago. not much bearing really on this match. Except to say that Jones knows he can beat Robertson, and that psychologically has to help. Three frames have now come and gone on table one. The pace rather more speedy between Williams and Brissell. Mark
Robertson,
Williams now leading
6.
6-5.
Yep.
As Jones sees Robertson catching the pink. Or rather, Jones catches the pink. So it's going back.
Just on the match next door, they're into frame 4, like you say, Brissell with a century, but in the 4th frame, Williams has done away with that roll-up break. So that was just a one-off, I think. Strange.
Yeah, no problem.
Robertson seeking his 79th ranking quarter-final appearance. Of course, he's won 23 ranking titles, joint 6 on the all-time list with Judd Trump, who's already bowed out. But surprisingly, he hasn't added to that tally this season, having won 3 last season and the Masters. Of course, he started the campaign in fine fettle. He teamed up with Mick Nutcherat to win the inaugural World Mixed Doubles title, which looked highly unlikely after the round-robin matches. But they got to the final and beat Mark Selby and Rebecca Kennett. That remains the only title that Robertson has lifted in this campaign. But none of that will matter if he ends up lifting this one after 17 days. He has said before that he would be very disappointed to end his career as only a one-time world champion. Just not quite with it at the moment, Robertson, in these early exchanges.
No, absolutely not. I'm not sure he's quite worked out how to play Jack Jones. I think Jack Jones will just play at his own pace, but Neil probably needs to do something a little bit different. You know, playing Wu Yiza the other night, it was obvious that he had to keep it tight. He would get chances. Jack Jones is not going to make it. He's not going to give him so many chances.
Very close, but not quite. Just too high.
It's very close, wasn't it? There's no question it could have easily dropped. It's unusual what we're seeing here because all the other matches, the first 8 frames, is generally a lot of freedom about in them. But this one is not like that at all. She's sort of quite restricted in the shots that are being played. It's very early stages, but, you know, I think when you start off with a very long first frame, 43 minutes, you know, it doesn't often set you off on a good footing. It reminds me of the time when Mark Selby beat Neil Robertson here. 2020, the first frame was about an hour. Selby bossed it, and he kind of seemingly controlled the match, I think, on that occasion, from there on.
8.
And Robertson said at the time that he'd been schooled in the safety and had been drawn into a tactical game which played into Selby's hands, and he vowed that thereafter he wouldn't allow that to happen again. But
9.
there have been occasions where he has gone into his shell a little, and that's not his style, clearly. I mean, Robertson can play great safety, of course he can. He's one of the best in the world, but his main strength is brilliant break building.
14.
And his long game, his attacking game.
15.
Even though he's had a modest season, he still managed to make 49 centuries, Robertson. He's only 3 away from 900 for his career. Only O'Sullivan, Higgins and Trump have made more than that.
Seventeen.
Well, here's the way of going into the bunch, although they're kind of, he's got to hit the pink completely square on. If he hits it full ball and the cue ball stays in the middle of the table, the red should split nicely. No, he did hit it square on. I mean, the cue ball absolutely flew back down the table there. He hit it almost too well, if there's such a thing. Just watch this cue ball. When it hits the pink, it just almost takes a flyer back down the table. It's unlucky, really, because he got some fizz on it.
No doubt that Jones has settled the quicker of the two. This is unknown territory for him, of course, the second round at the Crucible. Over 3 sessions, 25 frames. But his game does look built for a match of this length.
30.
I think Ali Carter was a little surprised how well he played against him, you know. I think he was kind of waiting for something to happen to change the game when he got close to winning. As if it was all a little too much for him, but it never was. He just kept going. And maybe when the last frame was won, or needed to be won, he just faltered a little bit, got over the line because of the Carter mistake. Obviously, that's a long way off in this match. That red nearly stayed out in the middle. This deserves to be on one for that shot, and he's on one up the table.
38.
Yeah, good pot again from Jones. Whirlwind stuff. Next door, though, they've already completed 4 frames and they've shared the session again. So 6 apiece between Mark Williams and Luca Brissell. Winner of that, of course, plays the winner of the Ronnie O'Sullivan Hossein Vafaya match. That's coming up this afternoon from 2:15 UK time.
45.
O'Sullivan and Vafai, by the way, are back for their second session tomorrow afternoon when this match is played to a finish, and then they play to a conclusion on Sunday morning from 10 o'clock.
It's good stuff, you know, this from Jack Jones. He's putting out
53.
a notice. You know, if you hadn't seen these two play before, you'd say, well, which is the former world champion, which is the person who's played here the most? Considerably more. This is Jack Jones, only his second match here.
54.
Yeah, Robertson took on a tricky red into the right centre, very nearly potted it. Did a tour of the lip of the pocket, but stayed out, and this is the result. So 48 the lead. 75 still on the table. Not much more to do to double his lead.
Yeah, Robertson's 46th match at the Crucible, this.
60.
But he hasn't settled at all. He just, I just thought he started on bad footing. The shot that sticks in my mind, it's only frame 2, but he refused to try and cannon the red out by the black. He looked at it for forever. Played a safer option and missed anyway. And his sense of adventure seemed to have gone out the window. But seeing Jack Jones play like this might inspire him, actually.
This black and one more red. Robertson will need snookers.
$68. $69.
The crowd acknowledging that should be the frame done and dusted, particularly with straightforward pink to make sure. He's a very calm and cool customer, Jack Jones. He showed that in the way he came through qualifying.
75.
Made that telling break in the decider against Robbie Williams. Saw off Barry Hawkins in a tight one. And then pulled away from Ali Carter in the second session impressively. Winning 5 of the last 7 frames, and Robertson will know that he's got a challenge on his hands. This is the ready miss, not easy.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because Jack Jones actually potted one into that pocket, looked even further away at more pace.
83.
Yeah, he's a bit unfortunate with that, really. That could have easily gone in on a different day, different table. But he sat down and watched ever since, and that is snooker for you. It's you've got plenty of time to think about anything you've done wrong at this game. It's been a superb break, this from Jack Jones.
88. 18-9. $96. 97.
So this blue for a second Crucible century. A very nicely crafted break this from Jack Jones.
$104.
No, I agree. It's a very fine break. And if anyone thought this was going to be an easy match for Neil Robertson, then they're mistaken. I'm not sure anyone did. I mean, maybe just on performances, on rankings, certain snooker observers might have thought this was going to be an easy game, but I'm not sure that that is how it'll pan out.
$111.
Well, he's already proved he's no respecter of reputation with victories over Hawkins and Carter, two of the most successful players at the Crucible.
116.
And this has been an immaculate break from Jack Jones. The first frame was very bitty.
122.
This has been very different. Superb. It's a 1-2-2 break with the white going in off the black, but that is a terrific opening for Jack Jones. He doubles his lead over Neil Robertson to 2 frames to 0. So let's look back at some of the highlights of that break. They were few and far between in the opening frame, but that was a completely different proposition from Jack Jones after Neil Robertson had missed the initial chance. There was some really crisp potting in this break, Neil.
Very good, wasn't it? And, you know, he's got a very measured approach. He doesn't overhit many shots. There's a little bit of rhythm in his cue action as well. This was a shot which got him to a century. Going to see how many players have made centuries in their first 2 matches at the Crucible now. A lot have done it on debut. I'll have a little check on that. But from the moment, the most important stat is 2-0 Jack Jones. His second Crucible appearance, first ever best of 25. And he looks more at home, more comfortable this morning than the Australian. But we are in the early stages.
Jack Jones with just his 11th century of the season, his second here at the Crucible. He made one against Ali Carter in the first round, which he won 10-6. He now leads Neil Robertson 2-0. Robertson has yet to fire. Missed a tricky red early in that previous frame and spent the rest of it in his chair, watching Jones clear up with 122.
The third frame. Jack Jones to break.
But clearly, the winning line is a very long way off. The first to 13 over 3 sessions. Nevertheless, a very encouraging start for the underdog, who breaks off in frame 3. 6 more scheduled in this session. A further 8 to be played tonight and a possible 9 tomorrow afternoon. Robertson, who made his Crucible debut back in 2005 when he lost to Stephen Hendry, 10-7.
Well, it's not really where you want to finish. And that's kind of how things are right now. He's potted a good ball, and the cue ball's just drifted and drifted to the point where there's not much he can do from in there.
Rambo. Neil Robertson. 1.
So, Robertson with a lot of thinking to do, I would say, just to try and sort of unsettle Jack Jones, who's moved into a nice rhythm and focus. Looking at this red here, interesting after the Robertson shot that he's left a ball on. Oh, great shot. Well, he's playing all the shots. He's controlling the game at the moment. Robertson thought he'd play a containing shot, but he hasn't contained.
Blue goes in, but
6.
the cue ball's no good. Couple of rounds of 16 for Jack Jones, his best in ranking events this season before arriving at the World Championship. One of those was the shootout, which I guess underlines the fact that you don't necessarily have to be quick in order to be effective in that tournament. Keeping cool under pressure is definitely one of the attributes in that version of the game, and Jones is very adept at that, as he proved coming through the tight matches, in particular against Robbie Williams, Barry Hawkins, and the way he finished off against Ali Carter. Robertson just looking to get involved here. He did knock in a great red initially in this frame from tight to the baulk rail, but obviously was unlucky to leave the cue ball in the jaws. Just hasn't had the opportunity yet, really, to get any flow into his game. But of course, the beauty of these World Championship matches is you've got bags of time to find your form.
Foul. Neil Robertson, 4.
Cue ball flying into the pocket. Seemed to bend itself in, didn't it?
Yeah, the topspin, I think, just sent it slightly arced in its progress. So how is Robertson going to approach this now? Is he going to just stay defensive, or is he going to try and attack? It's very difficult to go out there and knock balls in when you haven't had any table time and you're playing an opponent who's on the back of a century. But what is Robertson's plan to try and get him in the game? He's going very slow average shot time at the moment, so that's going to have to improve.
He's missed 5 of his attempted 13 pots, which equates to 62%. But if he could knock this in, things could change very quickly. Just not quite happening for him at the moment.
Yeah, this is another good chance. Now, this is, if it goes 3-0, it's a long match, but it's getting quite serious for Robertson. People are saying that he's going to win the title this year. He's got to find a way of overcoming this man in a long match. There's plenty of time, but you wouldn't want him to get a very healthy lead, or certainly a Robertson fan wouldn't want it.
From his point of view, it's vital for Jones that he takes full advantage of this period of the match where Robertson is a little below par. He's cueing well because he knows that at some point in this match Robertson is going to fire, and when he does it could be pretty devastating. He could spend long periods of time in his chair, so while he's in the ascendancy, vital to make the most of it.
Nine.
He's not played that very well. He's got a shot at the yellow, fairly straight. So he's just a little bit further away from these his last couple of shots and this one than he should be. This red now. Start for the blue. But the table is pretty open. Just made it, and that's perfectly on the blue.
12.
So this is a very significant early move from Jack Jones.
Robertson
17.
attempted the long red, overcut it. Looks a little bit concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to sit in your chair and concentrate and hope, because you can't let your mind drift onto anything else. And, he's spending a lot of time in that chair, isn't he? Jack Jones is keeping him in there. It's not a fast-flowing game, this one. Robertson is really not in it yet, even, safe to say.
18.
Just 39 points scored so far for Robertson.
22. $23.
Just needs to be low on this black. For the next red. Slight bounce off the cushion. On the red, frees the other one. So from here, he could really go on and get another frame on the board. It's a very interesting start to this match. And for some people, an unexpected one.
$31.
Magnifies the significance of that first frame, which for quality was instantly forgettable, but crucially Jones won it, and that would have settled any nerves he feels coming into uncharted territory for him, a second round at the Crucible. And clearly he's now settled into his stride.
38.
Queuing very nicely, a century in the previous frame. If he could win this in one visit and once again punish Robertson's missed pot, well, that would be impressive. Still plenty to do, though. 44 in front.
$39.
Very slight angle. That's all he has here. Such a small one that he really couldn't make anything from it. So
44.
again, mid-range. Looking up at the score, realise he's got a 45-point lead, but there's still 75 on, so he's not there. And those other 5 reds look pretty tightly grouped up. I'm playing around 2 cushions this to get closer to the black. Yeah, it's good.
5.
It's got all the shots. It's a lovely shot there where he's finished.
Not the cannon he was hoping for, though, so a reprieve, it would appear, for Robertson. 53-point lead for Jones, but you can see the frustration. If this had gone right, it would have been 3-0.
Yes, it's a good lead, like you say, but he's going to have to do it with another scoring visit. Keeps looking at that scoreboard, and with 67 on, potentially a turning point should Robertson ever get a chance. It's a long game, but you've got to win all the frames you're meant to win, I suppose, if you're Jack Jones against Neil. Safety shot's got to be careful here of the double kiss. He's avoided it.
Jack Jones, 52.
So the frame isn't secured. He's a good break, but not quite enough. And going into the bunch didn't quite work out. So still favourite.
It's a patience game at the moment for Robertson. He hasn't been able to get involved in the 2.5 frames we've seen, but if he did get a chance in this one and could go on to win it, that would change the whole vibe of this first session, which at the moment is being monopolised by the Welshman.
Yeah, what Robertson's got in his favour here is that the balls are pretty orthodox. I know the blue's off its spot, but it's up near the brown if the clearance ever happened. You know, there aren't a whole host of reasons why he wouldn't clear. except for that it's early in the morning for him. Just past 11:30 local time, and it appears he hasn't quite woken up yet.
It's nearly not quite at the moment, isn't it, for Robertson? He's got close to some of these long pots and came very close to potting the red to the right centre in the previous frame, which could have led to a big break.
Seems to be taking it all in his stride, as if he's not sort of panicking or worrying, but, you know, at some point, maybe he'll still have to panic. Never a good thing, but if this frame goes, then really the one before the mid-session, he'll probably need to win. Not an easy shot, this, though. Missable.
One.
Well played.
On its way, it looked as though it could be a little high, but it's dropped in. So this is frame ball. What a start from Jack Jones, picking up where he left off against Ali Carter. Looks composed. He seems to be embracing the occasion. He's not remotely intimidated by it.
9.
And he's doing exactly what is required if he's to win this match. He's taking advantage of a subdued start from his opponent, which surely can't last, but while it does,
16.
important for Jones to make full capital, and he's doing that at the moment.
17.
I think the key is he's not really getting chances. Certainly, he's not being gifted anything. And that is the way to play this game. You don't give your opponent anything. And at the moment, Jack Jones playing hard at snooker, scoring pretty well. Made a century again, made one
24.
on debut. Not many players have made centuries in their first 2 Crucible appearances. He's on that list.
25.
So it's the dream start, really, against Robertson. You have to start well in these matches, and he certainly is.
32.
276 points, plays 39 at present.
33.
Once again, evidence that these corner pockets are on the receptive side. That caught
Foul.
the cushion
Neil
pretty
Robertson,
early.
7.
The unexpected
Jack Jones, 33.
potting of the green ends the break abruptly, but it doesn't matter. The frame was long since won. 33
Just take your seats, please.
and 52 initially. Now, Robertson coming back to the table, clearly with no ambition at all in terms of winning the frame, but he just wants to get his arm going because he's had precious few opportunities to do that so far. So just knocking in the colours. To get a feel for it.
5. 9.
Yeah, it's just
14.
literally a bit of practice. It's all this is. It's got no real meaning. It's got no meaning, nothing. But he's taken the opportunity,
20.
which he's entitled to, just to pot some balls. He's been starved of any table time by a very good Jack Jones.
Neil Robertson, 27.
Neil Robertson
Third
mops
frame.
up the colours, but it's Jack Jones who is in complete control in the early running here in round 2 at the Crucible. The Welshman leads the former world champion by 3 frames to 0.
Couldn't he? Which he looked at, Philip, for a long time and chose not to play it, played the safer option. Here, I mean, in fairness, that is extremely close to going in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a case of nearly but not quite really for Robertson on a few occasions. That one wasn't far off. And then this one in frame 3, again, got pretty close, but at that stage it really had to go because Jones didn't need to do too much more to wrap the frame up, which he duly did. Robertson just taking that opportunity to remind himself of what it's like to pot a few balls, because he's potted precious few this morning. He mopped up the colours, but he trails 3-0. So 1 or 2 raised eyebrows at the scoreline at the moment on table 2. It is still very early in the piece. This is the first session of 3, of course, and there's still another 5 frames scheduled in this morning session. But nevertheless, Neil Robertson struggling at the moment, and Jack Jones, more to the point, playing really well to lead 3-0, 122 in frame 2, his second Crucible century, and a 52 break doing the lion's share of the damage in the third.
Thank you. It's the 4th frame.
Robertson's only break was that irrelevant 27 he made just now in clearing the colours. Can he get something going before the interval?
I would maintain he needs to win this frame. And to come out of a fairly long first session, which probably end up being about a couple of hours, without winning a frame, that's not a very fruitful start. But what can you do? You can only sit and wait and hope things will turn around to keep doing the right things. Table time, 31%. That's all he's getting, and that was some of that was at the end of that last frame. So he's getting completely outplayed, it's safe to say. Ah, that's terrific. That terrific shot from Jack Jones. Yeah, he's one of the most improved players around. I mean, a lot of people were saying that earlier in the season that he's improving, but it seems to have come on a bundle in the last few days. A win here has made him feel even better about his game, it seems.
Eight. Nine.
That's very good. Very good. Using all the pocket, but there are a couple of reds out and open play here, so this is very intriguing the way this is developing this match. Jack Jones is playing
16.
I think even better than he was against Ali Carter, quite honestly.
$17.
Beautifully played. Beautifully played. hand on the side rail. He managed to get power and accuracy on that. It's very good.
24.
It's hard to argue with this. The first frame was slow and drawn out and took best part of 45 minutes. Neither player really flourished in it. But since he won it, he's been superb here.
25. $32. $33.
Just the top side. Again, options here. Reds from the right side of the table into the left corner. There you see the angle he's got.
Jack Jones is currently outscoring
38.
Neil Robertson 4-1. Robertson, remember, who Blitz Wu Yiza, who played some good stuff himself in defeat, but only won 3 frames with that barrage of breaks, 4 centuries, 2 1-4-6s in a single match. That's never been done before. But he's a spectator at the moment in this match.
39.
He really is. No, he absolutely is. And will he go into the bottom of the bunch here? Pretty loosely scattered bunch anyway. So difficult, as I said earlier, just sitting there waiting, hoping. I can tell you that when you're playing someone who's fairly deliberate, and he's not playing slowly, he's playing methodically and well. But it's quite difficult sitting there for long periods, not for some negative thoughts to creep in. It often happens. You're not thinking at your most upbeat occasionally in your chair. You're not full of the joys of it all. But it's another good shot.
Yes, and if you factor in as well that Robertson is acutely aware that his record
46.
since he won this title here at the Crucible is modest. Many people are expecting him to win it for a second time, are wondering why he hasn't already won it for a second time. So that brings its own added pressure, which isn't being helped by the excellence of Jones snooker. Hang on, hang on. Now, that one was out of the blue.
Jack
The
Jones,
first really glaring error he's
46.
made. Is this the turning point early in this first session?
Well, he seems to think it should have gone in, but quite honestly, there'd have been people on social media in outrage had it done so. Because they're all saying the pockets are big. They look big. I just think sometimes it's the camera angles at the Crucible are so close up. It didn't really look in, did it? I always thought it would struggle. And he seems shocked by it. It's the first one he's missed for a long while. He's furious. And he'll be even more so if Robertson can spring into life here.
Well, this is the best chance that Robertson has had so far. He missed a red early in the first frame.
1.
Maybe those half-dozen pots that he allowed himself at the end of the frame, just gone, academic though they were in terms of the match, might just help him get this break underway in his bid to close the gap to 3-1, but much more importantly to punish Jack Jones for that error, which didn't look likely to come with the way he was queuing.
Eight. 9.
No break of significance at all so far for Robertson. He'd scored less than 40 points coming into this frame.
Moment, please.
40 relevant points anyway.
Now this cube, this pink ball probably goes right in the middle of this lot here. It's what Marcel Eckhard is looking at. Again, it's not really in Robertson's favour. But if it goes there, it goes there.
Marcel was the youngest ever referee in a world final when he took charge of Ronnie O'Sullivan's 6th in 2020, which of course allowed O'Sullivan to set a new record of ranking titles won. Just a reminder, it's O'Sullivan Vafai this afternoon, the first of 3 acts. 2:15 our coverage starts. Radzi,
Thanks.
Jimmy and Alan will be in the studio ahead of the first ball at around about 2:30.
16.
A really important visit this for Robertson, just to establish himself in this match. He's been a bystander so far.
Well, it's okay, but it's this red that he's going to be playing. You know, if it's out of ball's width to the left, he's never going to miss it now. He could miss it, and if he did, it caused him great frustration. Quite a thin one.
22.
And he just missed hitting the black there on the way through.
Robertson spoke about how he feels he's never been better prepared
29.
for an assault on a world championship than he is coming into this one. He's had a clear month of practice. And he'd also changed his practice regime, adding a second session later in the day to the one that he would normally do. Just the discipline of going back out to practice, having already had a session previously in the day, he feels has just given him that extra edge, and certainly there was plenty of evidence for that in that wonderful performance against Wu Yuza. We've seen nothing like that so far today, but maybe this is where it starts. And this will hurt Jack Jones. Clearly at the outset, if you'd offered him 3-1 at the first interval, he'd have been delighted, but it was a clear chance for a clean sweep. He looked a little pained to see that red stay up.
36.
Well, yeah, and it might be important, Philip, mightn't it? Because this is a frame that Neil Robertson, I think, probably assumed he was going to lose as well as all the others. Those 2 reds up the table are not quite perfectly placed to pot. He's looking at various options here, but if he's got to play the cannon, the pink's in the way a little bit. What's he going to do? Yeah, that's not bad. I think he'll be happy with that because the pink was definitely an obstruction, but he hit the pink, but grazed the reds too. There's always a potential hazard, which he seems to have overcome.
$44.
Not there yet. He needs to obviously avoid any concerns that the blue might snooker him on the red up the table. That would be a horrendous outcome.
Please make sure the phones are switched off.
Oh goodness, not a mobile phone. How many more times can you say it? It always seems to happen at the most inopportune moments. And this is a big moment, albeit early in the best of 25.
50.
But the psychology of the game is apparent, isn't it? That Jack Jones
51.
is delighted how he's playing. Oh, he missed a shot there. Apologies, not our fault. He knows he's playing brilliantly, but even if he led 3-1, he'd be annoyed that he's not leading 4-0 because you get greedy. You've got to win all the frames you're meant to win.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? That it was a big opportunity to really put a lot of pressure on Robertson in this first session. For the second half of it, the best Robertson could do, had Jones made the most of that chance, was come out of it level, but clearly Jones would have had a big chance to take potentially a very handy lead.
Yeah, I mean, of course, he'd like to have been closer to the yellow than this, which is still a very
62.
important shot. 16 in front, he's up to and including the brown.
64.
I think he's overcome this, so he's done well here, I think this is a good break because he'd been sitting in his chair for a long time. Needs the brown, but should be right in behind it without too much of a problem.
Jack Jones is going to have 15 minutes to think about what might have been. He'll be pleased on the one hand at how well he's played at the start of this match, but at the same time, there'll be a sense of frustration that it could have been even better. And of course, it's allowed Robertson to finally get his cue arm going,
76.
get a foothold in the match. But how well has he taken these?
82.
Yeah, I mean, all that preparation, it's not for just always making big breaks and coasting through matches. It's for being under the cosh, and he has been here. Superb break.
An 89 clearance after Jack Jones was in yet again, but Mr. Red to the right corner on 46. It looked like being 4-0, but instead, Robertson has hit back with a typically classy break when he got the opportunity and shaves the deficit to 2. It's 3-1 at the interval. So, to kick off our interval entertainment, we'll bring you highlights of the dramatic turnaround yesterday in the match between Joe Perry and Rob Milkins.
8 each. A level match now. Joe Perry led 7-2, but it's become a best of 3 for a place in the second round of the World Championship.
It is now. And that's all Milkins is going to need.
Yeah. It was a tough clearance anyway, but he wasn't quite in control. He left himself that green around the angles, didn't get nicely on the brown. Milkins just checking the maths. But if he pots this, then barring 2 snookers, he's going to be 9-8 up. Remember, he was 7-2 down when the morning began. Robert Milkins hasn't been flawless, but he's shown great heart. He's been getting the lead in all these frames. That's been the common denominator. Perry's been chasing the game.
Robert Milkins 4.
And now he's behind in the match for the first time. Well, one thing you can say, despite his problems this morning, the psychology has changed as much as Perry is now the chasing man. It wriggles in. It wriggles in. Well, every credit to Perry. If he can just knock this pink in, it looks like we're heading to a decider. Oh, under the circumstances, what a great break it's been from Joe Perry. Down but not out.
59.
He's got it. He's on the black, and this is a great chance for Robert Milkins. That's a great recovery shot. That's a great recovery shot, and he's on the red. But listen to the applause.
Well, as you say, that's classic Robert Milkins.
I don't think he was short. 62 points the lead.
This is effectively match ball for Robert Milkins. And in it goes. The Milkman has delivered. One of the great first-round comebacks has been completed by Robert Milkins. Joe Perry had the advantage at 7-2, but Milkins turned it round superbly. He won 8 of the frames played in this session. Robert Milkins the winner by 10 frames to 9.
The 7th day of the World Snooker Championship, but away from the snooker, we've got World Superbikes action for you from Assen. It's round 3, it's on Eurosport 2, and it's live tomorrow from 9:30 Central European Time. Formula E, round 7 in Berlin, is coming your way tomorrow from 3 o'clock CET. And then on Sunday, it's sailing's Ocean Race, the 4th leg, from 5:30 Central European Time. That's on Sunday. Now, what's been happening on Table 1? Well, it's been pretty brisk fare thus far between Mark Williams, 3 times champion, of course, many people's pick, including Alan McManus, I think, for the title this year, against the man who finally enjoyed a victory at his 6th attempt in the first round this year. Ricky Walden was Luca Brussel's victim in a decider, and he held himself together very well to get the job done when it was beginning to look as though he'd be disappointed again here at the World Championship. But at the moment, very tight, as you can see, 7-6 Brussels, and frame 14 still in the balance. Now back to the Table 2 action so far, and Neil, it's been a very interesting opening to this match, hasn't it? And a difficult one initially for Neil Robertson.
He looked at that shot for a long time. He was going to play the first red and try and nudge the red by the black out. Took forever to decide, didn't play it, played a different shot which didn't work either, and that, I think, set him back. But it doesn't matter, you're going to be set back if your opponent is playing it like Jack Jones is playing quite beautifully here. You know, he's played so well in all of the frames from the first, including the last. This was the point in frame 1 where he could have lost it, but it ended the frame actually because Robertson missed the escape. Onto frame 2, and I mean, this could have gone in. I think the pace might be the only reason it stayed out. I think the middle pockets can be a little bit nippy on these tables, so this shot that he rolled in was a good one, but he played it dead weight. This was Jack Jones.
9.
And from that, you know, he compiled a beautiful break, went on to make a century. He made a century on debut as well, so he's made one in both of his first 2 matches now, and the list of people that have done that is not a long list. So that was for 2-0. Frame 3, Robertson still looking for something, but here, when that red just crept in off the side jaw, we saw the same. I thought this was a good shot because he played it in close to the black, perfect angle to nudge reds, because the frame was still very much alive at this point. This one, he's using all the pocket on some of these shots, let's be honest about it, but he overdid it in frame 4, which we'll come to, because he was going well again here, going really well. And this, I mean, he has been using the pocket. The pocket had decided enough's enough. And to be honest, he's surprised he looked by it. Every time you look at that red, it doesn't look in any way, and it never dropped, thankfully, because, you know, that's if you hit them well, then that's one thing, but he didn't hit it very well. But this clearance, I mean, should Roberts end up winning this game, a moment as early as this in session one might be a significant one. 3-1 and deserved for Jack Jones.
Yes, it remains to be seen just how significant that run of 80 plus from Robertson will change the dynamic of this first session. But at the moment, it's Jack Jones in charge, leading by 3 frames to 1. Now it's time for the latest instalment of the man who's coming up this afternoon in an eagerly anticipated match with Hossein Vafai, Ronnie O'Sullivan and Ronnie's Reckoning.
Neil Robertson, yeah, I mean, incredible player, incredible curist. Yeah, he's probably, you know, when people say they make the game, some people make the game look really easy. The only way I can explain what it's like watching Neil Robertson play snooker is a snooker table's quite big, you know, 12 by 6. You look at it and you think, you know, like this, it looks like a tough game, you know. But when Neil Robertson plays snooker, he makes it look like a pool table. It shrinks. It's like as if he's so over the shot and on top of the table that you just think he can't miss. And I'm just baffled that he hasn't won more than he's won. And that's not a criticism, that's a compliment. Because for me, if I had his cue action, I've always said to people, I'd be surprised if I ever lost. You know, because it's just, everything's just bang in the middle of the hole. It's just unbelievable, really. You just got to fancy him. You have to fancy him. Every time he sets up for a tournament, you've got to say, yeah, he's like, if he gets it right, you know, he's a handful, you know, for anybody, you know, even if they play well, you know, and if he's playing well, you've got to play brilliant all the time because his form just doesn't dip. It's not like he'll have a bad session. He just keeps potting balls, you know, and it's really hard to keep going with that, you know, if you have like inconsistencies in your own game, you know, because he doesn't ever, you know, he's at 95, 99% pretty much all the time. And if he's like that at Sheffield, then, you know, you wonder why he doesn't win that tournament more often. But I do believe it's because the venue is so small and he has this massive step into the shot. And I think the first round you get away with it, the second round it starts to creep in. You think, you know what, I'm not actually stepping in enough. And then, you know, certain calibrations start to go wrong in your game because you're not taking your usual step that you normally do. But I think if he gets past the 2-table setup and gets to the 1-table setup, he becomes favourite. He becomes, for me, over 4 sessions, long session matches, for me, he beats anybody. So if I was in Neil Robertson's corner, I'd be going, look, let's just get out of this 2-table setup. Forget about the semis, forget about the final. Your issue is getting out of that 2-table setup. I think if the venue was bigger and he could do his bigger step, he would have won 4 or 5 world titles, no problem at all. So, yeah, that would be my, that's the only thing that I can think that is the reason why he hasn't done better there. Technical skill, I put him number 1. And then you have sort of someone that can hustle, which is different. I don't think Neil Robertson can hustle. Someone like Mark Williams can hustle. Someone like Selby can hustle. If you gave Mark Selby Neil Robertson's cue action, he'd probably never lose. It'd be impossible, but we've all got faults, you know, and sometimes you just kind of got to go, I've got to work on my weak areas, and that's all you can do as a player. And if I was Neil Robertson, I'd say we're going to learn to hustle. So, you know, yeah, big fan of Neil Robertson. Yeah, I think as a player, I think it'd be a shame if he doesn't win at least another 1 or 2.
We'll be back very shortly for the second half of the first session between Neil Robertson and Jack Jones. But yesterday, of course, we saw Mark Selby, another player who many people are tipping for success at the Crucible again this year, coming through a tough one with Matt Selt, who's yet to win a match at the Crucible. It got very tight, quite scrappy in the deciding session, but Selby typically producing his best snooker when he needed it most. A superbly crafted century to get over the line. by 10 frames to 8. He was pushed hard. This is his reaction afterwards.
Fantastic clearance, a brilliant break to win the last frame. Just tell me your emotions after that, because he ran you close in the end.
Yeah, I thought Matt played well, you know, from start to finish. He's a great match player. I think he's got a good game. Sometimes his just temperament lets him down a little bit, but throughout the match I thought his temperament was really good. And I said that to him after the first session. I thought he played well the first session as well, and probably a little bit unlucky to be 6-3 down, but yeah, he come back at me strong, and managed to hold myself together well at the end, which was pleasing.
Very pleasing, I'm sure. It looked like you were always going to have the reserves, and even though he was coming back at you, talking about his temperament, he did swear a couple of times. I think he got warned, didn't he, by Tatiana, and you can hear all that muttering. You know he's charging back, but in your mind you're thinking he's not quite there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously sometimes that's probably what lets him down sometimes, you know, his temperament, as I say, but yeah, I mean, we've all been there, you know. Obviously, don't hold it against him. I mean, I've been there before and probably been warned myself, but it's just frustration sometimes more than anything. But, you know, he played great, and obviously a tough match to get through. But I'd rather it be like that than win comfortably 10-2, 10-3, because you don't really know where your game's at. I've been tested and I've held up.
You've definitely been tested, and also you've probably had the biggest fluke at the tournament so far. Just talk to me about that blue. I mean, did you see the blue go in, or are you thinking, oh gosh, I've left the red perfect for him?
Well, I seen it going towards the pocket, and then once it got halfway across the table, I thought, is he getting in? And I couldn't even look at Matt, because God knows what he was saying. He probably got warned again. But no, I mean, I played such a bad shot on the red, and then I've tried to really get into the blue and try and create an angle what weren't there. And yeah, God knows how it's gone in. I mean, that's probably the turning point in the match.
You didn't win the frame, you didn't win the match, so I suppose it was nice to show your real class and seal it with that big break at the end.
Yeah, for sure, because early doors in that break, I had a few tough shots. I had a blue into the yellow pocket, which was missable, and Matt sort of had the momentum at that stage. If I miss that, you know, who knows, it's 9-all, and then you're not guaranteed to get a chance. And a couple of reds early on in the break as well, which were difficult shots, and I managed to kill one well. And yeah, and then once I got sort of in position, I felt confident then.
Feeling good?
Feeling okay, yeah. Yeah, a day off now, I think, tomorrow, and go again Saturday evening.
Against Gary Wilson, and we'll chat you soon.
Cheers, Rach, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it certainly was a very good finish from Mark Selby. A slightly sticky start to that concluding session, but he delivered when he had to set up that meeting with Gary Wilson. Now, this afternoon, it's the Rocket against the Prince of Persia, and a few words have been exchanged in the build-up to O'Sullivan Vafai.
I love it when they call me out. I love it when they give me stick. I just love it.
He is what he is, you know. He's such a nice person. When he's asleep,
don't rattle my cage. I can just sort of have a reason to perform, I suppose.
It's better to don't say anymore.
We'll see, but we'll have some fun.
Can't wait for the start of O'Sullivan Vafai, who was quite outstanding in ending Ding Junhui's hopes of a second round meeting with the Rocket in round one. It all starts at 2:15 UK time, 3:15 Central European time. The build-up with Radzi, Jimmy and Alan in the studio, and they'll be underway just after 2:30 UK for the first of their 8 frames in the second round. So that's coming up this afternoon. In the here and now, Mark Williams and Luca Brecel have been playing another very tight session of snooker. Williams started the better in this match. He led 3-1, then Brecel won 3 on the bounce. Williams sharing the session in the end, and it's been a similar sort of story today. But at the moment, Brecel really giving a good account of himself against many people's tip to go to a 4th world title this year now.
Well, it looks like going 8-6 up there, which means the last 2 frames are going to be crucial. A lot of people assume Williams might win, but now with a bit of freedom, and they've won a match at this venue, maybe Brecel is going to open up and play some great stuff.
But we're ready for the second half of session 1 here on table 2, and what a vital intervention it was from Neil Robertson, that break of 89, when it looked as though Jack Jones was going to take all 4 before the mid-session break, before missing on 46.
Jack Jones to break.
Jack Jones from Cwmbran in the south of Wales, breaking off in frame number 5. Provisionally up to 40 in the world with his run to the second round here. 30,000 ranking points already banked. But of course he has greater ambitions than that, particularly given the way he started this match. He will have been frustrated to miss the red He was right to be concerned. He looked concerned when he walked back to his chair. Robertson, although he'd been distinctly subpar to that point, such is his class that he was ready to take the chance when it came, and he did very impressively, clearing the table with that 89 to make it 3-1. And you just wonder whether that will mark a sea change in this match.
Yeah, I mean, saying at the time that, you know, how could you be 3-1 up? And Jack Jones would have taken that before the game all day long. How could you be 3-1 up and be disappointed? Because the one shot that he missed is sort of, you could see the disappointment all the way through that Robertson break. How could you be 3-1 down and be happy, but or relatively happy? And that, I think, is how that session ended, all because of the one red that he missed, when it appeared he wasn't going to miss anything. But it is a long match, and it's now for both players to regroup. You know, Robertson has not played well, except for that one contribution in the last frame we've seen. Very interesting.
Thank you. 7. Eight. Thirteen.
If possible, please, thank you.
14.
Well, the two reds aren't a plant. That's the first thing to say. He would like to go into them if possible. What is he on? Because I think he played it well, but a pensive look on his face. Is anything available? Series of things happened there which I don't suppose he could account for, because I didn't see much wrong with the shot he played, but I don't see how he's on one. Yeah, that's not available. The two reds are to the right are not available, so you've got to say he's very unlucky there. Probably deserving of something to come out and be potable from that position. What a dreadful shot that was.
19.
Does the red go to the middle? That really was completely... complete mishit. Does the red pass the other one? Because what a gift that would be. Don't know what he played, Robertson, but there was a nothing shot.
Just to confirm that Luca Brissell now leads Mark Williams 8-6 on table 1, so Williams with work to do with what remains of that second session. They play to a finish this evening. Nothing doing for Jones into the centre pocket, so just the containing safety. Obviously there's a red up in baulk, which complicates the safety exchange. But Robertson's already got a 19-point lead, so I think we can discount any thoughts of a re-rack.
Just using the bulk colours to cover that red. Yes, he's just been stopped in his tracks, hasn't he, there, when he was just looking good again, Robertson. But he will show patience, and we know that. He has to attack this game, really, against Jones. But, you know, it's safe to say that Jones has played really nicely today. I mean, there's no arguments there whatsoever. He looks really confident. You just got to shrug off the odd disappointment, which you're going to get in a long match. Now, has he got away this time? He'd be very lucky if he has. Goodness. Does anything go past the black? I don't think. I think he's been fortunate. And that's quite a significant piece of good fortune there because, you know, the shot he played was all over the place, actually. So again, it's another frame which has got some significance. Robertson probably feels he's played all the good snooker in this frame and all he leads is by a slender 19 points. The advantage is not a very big one. Now, is that a plant? 3 balls in a row, the pink being the middle, all of the 3. He's having a look at it. I mean, the cue ball's heading back down the table. I think that's part of the plan. Is this a plant? Oh, we never got a chance to see an angle that would have helped us to find out. Oh, that's some shot. Well, 2 have gone in. Goodness. That's like one of those trick shots you see.
2.
I knew that the left-hand red was not going to go in at pace because the first red was actually squeezing onto another ball. But this is quite a nice shot to see, isn't it? Look at that, all those balls going in at different speeds. Now I suppose he wishes he played it with a little bit more freedom. In other words, playing on a colour more readily than he has. Because if he plays the brown to the middle, it's a tough shot, so he's playing the drop in behind.
Yeah, Robertson, 2.
Should be able to hit this off one cushion. He's living very dangerously here. I don't know if he's left one this time. Again, we might see the table soon and find out. But yeah, he has gotten away with that because, again, he's gone through a little gap. He's hanging on by a thread in this frame. Well, he's found a way of getting back. He's just getting a little bit of good fortune here. There's Jack Jones in this frame. He's making the odd error.
Another good pot from Robertson.
1.
Just seems to have a slightly different demeanour about him. Coming out after the interval, it would have been a real boost to win that fourth frame. Sitting in his chair when Jones was in, he would have been resigning himself, I think, to a 4-0 deficit, and then he's got a lot of work to do just to stay in contention. But you can see Jones just showing 1 or 2 signs of frustration now. I'm sure he's still thinking of that fourth frame because it was such a big opportunity. And now Robertson is beginning to find something approaching his best snooker.
Yeah, his long game has started to become more sort of in keeping with how he usually plays. There's still a little bit of caution about him, but you know, he's bossed this frame, but he hasn't won it yet. And as a left-hander, he hasn't got an easy reach of this red.
Ten.
What a run of form from Luca Brissell, from 6-4 down against Mark Williams in their second session. He's reeled off 5 frames on the bounce now, a couple of centuries back to back to lead 9-6. So Williams urgently requires the last of that session to stay in touch.
So now Robertson has sort of freed himself from all the entanglement of this frame, and has a chance to win it now. Clearly, you know, there's two battles here. You can either be thinking about what your score is compared to your opponent. In other words, you lost the first 3, then you'd already 4 down. But ultimately, you're just trying to win frames to get to 13. That's basically all you should be thinking, but you can't help but look at the race between you and your opponent and see who's leading it. Robertson has just got to win frames this
26.
morning. And he's just, I was going to say asserting himself, but he's still going to be behind. Just needs to put this frame away here.
27.
That's not a great shot finishing there. That right-hand red has been troublesome for a while because the 2 reds down the centre won't pass that red. Well, maybe the bottom one will just actually.
32.
Because he seems to have played on it. That red has been causing problems all the way through this frame, though, where it is. So now just looking at Jack Jones in his chair. Now he's the player who is sitting out for long periods now, sort of thinking about that 4th frame. That red still no doubt. Stuff that you can't help thinking about because he hasn't potted a ball since. And that was, there's been a mid-session interval. So that was a good while ago.
39.
And that's the game. You don't always think about the positives. He's going to be 3-2 up. That's a positive, but things could have been even better.
Getting on for 28 minutes now since that misread. Robertson just looks like a different player now. He's beginning to stomp around the table.
47.
Such an intimidating player when he's in full flow, Robertson.
Likely to play to cannon the red and pink out. It's fairly academic. Well, he's not played it. He's just doing what he has to do. And yes, I think, as I was saying earlier, you know, all this preparation he's put in, he's made all those mammoth breaks in his previous match to beat a. I mean, that Wu Yezu is a real player for the future. I think his development is alongside Si Jiahui, who beat Murphy last night. But all that practice that Robertson's doing is for pressurised situations, I think. And he's in one here.
60.
89 in the previous frame before the interval.
61.
And Robertson has picked up where he left off. He was pretty subdued in the first 3 frames, just couldn't get going. The long pots weren't quite going in. But now, beginning to stride around the table in his usual way. And
70.
1 or 2 ominous signs here for Jones. He could yet win this session, Robertson. More than capable of getting on a roll and winning
73.
2 or 3 with 1 visits in no time. And he's completely dominated this frame.
77. $82.
Not quite enough for a century, and as we know, no one has a greater thirst for them than Neil Robertson.
88.
But he'll be delighted with the way he's queuing now. He had to be patient
95.
and watch his opponent play all the snooker in the first 3 frames. Robertson's played it all in frames 4 and 5. And in pretty quick time, he shaved the deficit to 1. Jack Jones now leading 3 frames to 2. Yeah, the long pots weren't quite coming off for Robertson in the first 3 frames, but that one was very familiar, wasn't it? He rockets them in right into the heart of the leather when he's playing well.
It's like a trick shot, this one, Philip, isn't it?
It's unusual, wasn't it?
Well, the 2 reds just trickled into each corner pocket. I think it was a frustrating first half of a frame, and had he lost his patience, I mean, sometimes we accuse Neil of being a little bit sitting on the back foot waiting, but I thought he did well that frame because he got unlucky 3 or 4 times. Jack Jones got out, and then you could sense there's frustration, but he's sort of overcome that. And these next 3 frames are going to be important. Jack Jones is going to want to take a piece of this session. He's going to want to be 5-3 up, absolute bare minimum 4 each. Who knows? He could win them all from here, but Robertson has just started to sort of awake from his slumber a little bit, and he looks ready.
A very different feel about this second round match now. Jack Jones was dominant in the first 3 frames and looked as though he was going to repeat the trick in the 4th. Mr. Red, when he was on a break of 46, and looked suitably pained about it because he probably knew what was coming, and that was Robertson springing to life with a break of 89. He's followed that up straight after the interval with a 95. So from 3-0 to 3-2 with another 3 frames still to be played in this session.
I could take your seats, please.
As mentioned on table 1,
Frame 6.
Luca Brissell 9-6 up
Near
from
Robertson
6-4 down against Mark Williams, who badly needs that final frame of the session. Coverage continues on Discovery Plus as Robertson breaks off.
Touching ball with both reds.
Touching both reds, so clearly just playing away from their pretty regulation.
1.
It's a good shot from Jack Jones. It's the first ball he's potted for a good while. And he just rolled it in pretty calmly. So in first in this frame, that's what he needed.
He's proved already in getting this far in the World Championship, 3 qualifying rounds, remember, that he's possessed of a very good temperament. So although clearly it would have been a setback to lose that 4th frame when he had a chance for 4-0, I think he's equipped to put it behind him. Oh, goodness, how did that drop? It looked high. Wriggled in.
Well, that's like the one that went in earlier, isn't it? Just a fraction further up. As I say, he is using all of the pocket, and 1 or 2 of them have just toppled in that didn't look in. But the big shot of the session so far is the one that didn't drop when he was looking like 4-0.
Yeah, that wasn't really close, and he didn't get nicely on it.
8.
Maybe the tide is turned a little bit in this match. The pressure that Robertson's put him under, maybe just starting to show. But he hasn't left anything. Pretty inviting little area behind green and brown if the ball's or the shot comes up to put the cue ball there in a safety shot. Well, it's not bad. Of course, he's left the red out in open play, but it's not easy, and the cue ball is sort of heading in somewhere towards the bunch, so there's risk attached to this. No, he left a chance back here. And once again, not cleanly potted, but potted.
1.
End of session next door. What a session it's been, but what a key clearance just now from Mark Williams, as we see the red again from Jack Jones, just about disappearing from view. Yeah, it was looking like 10-6 Purcell. That would have been a big lead going into the final session, but Williams, typically cool, has cleared up for 7-9 instead. So what a finish we have in store in that one.
6.
And it's played to a finish this evening, live here on Eurosport 1 and Discovery Plus from 6:45 UK time. Another important visit for Jack Jones as he continues to try and get the disappointment of that fourth frame out of his system. Wasn't really involved in the fifth.
He's got a difficult shot here. I mean, how do you get onto a red from the black with the rest? There is one that pops to the left corner, but it's going to take some good shots to get from A to B here. Done pretty well.
14.
At the end of this frame, no doubt the dividing wall will be raised, so the Table 1 audience can
15.
catch the end of this session, which remains in the balance. Could still go any number of ways. A handsome lead for Jones, a lead for Robertson, or perhaps parity. 8 frames, remember, in this first session, another 8 this evening. They play to a finish tomorrow afternoon. Again. There's not much room left to manoeuvre with these pots, is there?
No,
20.
no, and I think if this table was playing a little less generously, and it is, they're going in off the jaws all right. I think a few of these shots wouldn't have gone in so far. Not to detract how well he's been playing though in this match and of course the previous one. But you feel like he really needs his frame now. Get a 2-frame advantage back. That's no good. The worst outcome in the bump. Means he can't do anything of any real substance here. He can't obviously pot one. And if he had the cue ball right further down, he'd have played a pretty nasty snooker. Probably should have done a bit better with that. So he left a red on, but if he plays it, he needs to get it. Cue ball again coming out into quite a dangerous area towards the reds.
One.
What a kiss. What a kiss. Off ball has absolutely worked out perfectly. Curious to know where the black goes here. I think the spot is clear. Very clear. But he would like to move the red away from it to the left red.
8.
To the left of the black, that one. It's then he would clear everything.
Nine.
Good shot.
So a really good chance now for Jones, already 38 to the good. To ensure that the worst he can be is level at the end of this first session, but can still entertain thoughts of a lead, possibly a
16.
big one. I think anything other than a lead would obviously be disappointing for him, given he was 3-0 up, very nearly 4-0.
17.
To emerge with only parity in this session would feel like an opportunity missed, given that it took Robertson 3.5 frames to really announce himself in this match.
$24. $25.
A couple of reds and blacks would do to leave Robertson at the snooker's required stage.
Yeah, which makes me think that he won't go into the 5 reds here. He could do. He also might just want to play on the bottom one. Oh, he has gone into them. Carried some risk, but he played it, like so many other shots, with great confidence.
32.
The players who would have just played short and been on that red, because with the colour he'd be too many in front, but actually the shot he has played is
33.
Is quite a positive one. And I will say one thing for him, you know, you do tend to think that he, because he's a little slow at times, that he isn't a positive player, but he pretty much has been that way all the way through. Quite tried to be aggressive, but he does it in a fairly slow way. But the shots he's playing are full-blooded shots.
It was exactly the same against Carter. He didn't hold back. At times he took on balls that were risky, that would have left Carter in had he missed them. But by and large he was getting them, which is why he was able to win that
41.
match 10-6. And this is a really important frame just to arrest the momentum that Robertson was beginning to build.
$48.
And as you can see, when he's in full flow, he scores at a good lick. 20 seconds per shot this particular break. Frame well and truly won.
Yes, it means he's not going to lose a session. Obviously 4-all I think would be a big disappointment to him, but
56.
you know, he has done some good work today. Looking at the scores, the frame is absolutely won about 6 shots ago, so it's a question of how many he makes now.
57. $63. $64.
The century is definitely on.
71.
That would be a Pretty significant move, I think, because there were signs that he was
72.
flagging a little bit. The odd shot, just the odd shot, nothing much. Not quite worked out, that shot, is it? I mean, you can still pot this yellow. I don't know if you can cut it into the middle or what, but either way, doesn't greatly matter, but he'd like to knock in another century here. It's a very thin one. A good shot. Oh, that's a shame.
Neil Robertson 4.
No second century for Jack Jones, but that's secondary to the fact that he's been able to restore a 2-frame advantage. And so pressure on Robertson now to have a strong end to this session. Jones 4-2 in front with 2 to play. So up comes the dividing wall so that the whole of the Crucible can enjoy the final 2 frames of this first session. No doubt that'll be to Neil Robertson's liking, not least because it means it gives him a little bit more room to manoeuvre as he sets up for his shot. He's in a real tussle though here, isn't he, Neil?
Well, he's done well to get himself into the match to an extent, but that last frame has again just swung it back in favour of Jack Jones. So I guess both players might be happy for 5-3 at the end of this. Doesn't mean that's what we're going to get. But Jack Jones has been the better player and he will want something to show for it. We've got 2 frames left.
Marcel Eckhart resetting the balls ahead of frame number 7, and Jack Jones will be a whole lot happier than he would have been when he missed the red when he was looking set for 4-0. Neil Robertson beginning to show the form that dazzled in that victory over Wu Yize with 2 big breaks, 89 and 95, but Jones has arrested that momentum with a run of 77 to go with the 1-2-2. And the 52 he made in frames 2 and 3 respectively, so 4-2 in front. And poised at the moment to take a first session lead into this evening's resumption.
He looks the part, doesn't he? He looks like the part out there. His all-round game is decent. You know, he's given Neil Robertson, who's a consummate match player, plenty to think about. And just that last break he made, which could have been a century, but for the in-off from the yellow that he knocked in, it tells you that he's a big improving player. He's got to sustain it, though, and it's not easy to do that.
Just a reminder that coming up this afternoon, an eagerly awaited first session between the defending champion and 7 times winner Ronnie O'Sullivan and Iran's Hossein Vafai.
Jack Jones to break.
We'll have studio analysis ahead of the match from 2:15 UK time. Jack Jones, 2 clear, 2 to play in this session, breaking off in frame 7. And just a reminder, it's finished Luke Brissell 9, Mark Williams 7 on table 1. A great session for Brissell. Could have been even better. Williams with a typically cool and possibly very significant break to win the 16th frame and close the gap to 2 when it looked like it might be 4. But Robertson has definitely found his range once again with the long pots, having missed a few in the first 3 frames.
Yep, that was nicely played.
%62% from distance by his standards is pretty ordinary, but when you consider that he missed the first few he took on, he's picked up
4
in accuracy in that regard. And of course, could still come out of this session with parity, and that would feel like a session win, I think, for Robertson, given the sluggish start he made. No damage at all going into the evening would be a real fillip for him.
Played that well to get on the black with a nice angle. Just to nudge the reds. I don't think it's been a poor quality of session at all. It's been good. He's not quite had the excitement, perhaps, of the match on the other table, which was fast and furious stuff. But these two are both very orthodox players. And you'll get a safety exchange most frames, I think. And then it's a question of what happens when one of them gets in. Robertson might be trying to just speed things up a bit here. It's notably not hanging around.
20.
Clearly, something in Robertson's favour is that he's a much heavier scorer than Jones, who's made 11 centuries now this season, including the one this morning. Robertson, who has, by his standards, had an ordinary season, has made 49. Of course, he made a century of centuries. First player to do that. Wow, very nearly knocked in a red with the black, which would have been tremendously unlucky. Very positive shot into the bunch.
28.
Yeah, I mean, you can't legislate for these things. And that did everything but go in. It was tight, wasn't it? But as you can see, just
29.
crept past the other red. Definitely an injection of pace here from Robertson. He's a quicker player when he's in than Jack Jones. Just occasionally does start to look at a lot of things. Needs to stamp out of that habit, I think, in this particular match. Oh, goodness, what a miss.
Neil Robertson.
That is an
29.
extraordinary miss. That's as easy a shot as you'll see him miss in the whole season.
Yep. Out of the blue. Now, what can Jack Jones do by way of punishing that very unexpected mistake from Robertson? Robertson has just given the opportunity that seemed to be within his grasp to his opponent.
Yeah, and that really did come out of the blue. I didn't see anything of that one coming.
You could see Robertson's annoyance, and no wonder. Maybe just took his eye off the pot for a moment.
Well, there's no other excuse for it. It wasn't a kick. No one put him off. No mobile phone went off. Nothing. He just missed it.
We've already had one significant moment in this first session, the misread from Jones when he was poised for 4-0 and then found himself only leading 3-2, but that could be another one because Robertson was set there to make a big break, give himself a shout at coming out of this session level. At the end of this frame, he now may need that final frame to only be 2 adrift.
Seems to me with this game, it's not always the frames that you win that you should win. It's the one that you win that you should lose. Of course, vice versa. The ones that hurt you are the ones that you should win that go astray. As was the case with that 4th frame in the case of Jack Jones when he missed a pretty easy red that stayed over the pocket. This time, Robertson, a pretty simple blue, has to be said.
11.
Particularly given that he was beginning to cue, as Robertson normally does, very sweetly, knocking in the long balls, looking confident around the table, his body language back to where it would normally be after a slightly indifferent start. But vital for from Jones' point of view that he capitalises on this and in the process guarantees what he will feel is the bare minimum, a 5-3 advantage. But of course it could yet be better if he can fully make the most of this chance that he wouldn't have expected to get.
$18.
Yeah, I think the bottom red in that little bunch of 5 will go to the left middle. So he can just pick them off one by one, I think.
19.
It's a very important moment in the match, I think, this one. Yes, it's early. Still, but, you know, to get a 5-2 up with a frame left when Robertson was just getting into it, that would stop him in his tracks.
Not a great cue ball, having opened that cluster.
26.
Red's open nicely enough, but cueing is going to be challenging. And this is such a big frame now.
Yeah, that's now a tough shot. He got into it too much. This is missable for sure. He hasn't missed very many.
Well played, very well played.
He's really solid, isn't he, Jack Jones? I mean, he really is. I know that's not always a particularly a compliment to say someone's solid, but he's dependable on big shots. Doesn't go into them lightly. He always maintains his disciplines.
33.
Yes, that rock-solid temperament has been in evidence from the first ball in qualifying up the road at the English Institute of Sport.
34.
He needed it to come through a decider against Robbie Williams. He needed it in a tight match against Barry Hawkins. And when the pressure was on in the key moments against Ali Carter, he delivered. And that was certainly a test that needed to be passed.
40.
Robertson, no doubt, still seething about the missed blue.
41.
That's not gone to plan. He landed too straight on the black. That was the problem. Didn't have an
48.
angle to work with. He's tried to power that in for position on one of those two reds, but he's come up short. So that looks like a reprieve for Neil Robertson. 19 the difference.
Definitely a reprieve, isn't it? The cue ball didn't really do anything. I mean, he had a slight angle. He tried to sort of fizz it up the table with a hard stun shot, but it was almost like a dead white. Nothing much happened. He didn't go for the pop there. He's decided to bail out.
Jack Jones.
It's a good shot, though, you see. This is what I'm saying with him. OK, he's annoyed not to have won the frame there, but what he's done is played a good shot to end it. Good sort of continuity shot where he just says, right, OK, I haven't won the frame, but I'm still the boss in the frame, you know, the strong favourite. So he's got good match skills, and Robertson is finding that out.
Well short.
Foul and a miss. Jack Jones 4. Yeah.
Yeah, not much to go on in the way of previous meetings. 3 of them, all best of 7s. Jones won 2 of them.
Just got to try and brush up to these, isn't he? That's what he was trying the first time. Gets it second time around. So he's still in the frame, Robertson, and the balls are very orthodox. The 23-point lead that Jack Jones has got probably won't count for the world. But Robertson has got to prize a chance out of this situation, and it's hard to do against this man. Now, hang on a minute, this is not a great shot, is it? I'm sure he's left the thin red. That's got to be a mistake from Jack Jones, a rare one. It cuts in, it's thin, but he looked worried. He wanted the cue ball right down on the cushion, probably further to the top right than it is.
This has become a pretty seismic frame in this first session. Both players have had clear chances. Robertson missed the blue, out of the blue. Jones then lost position, and a loose safety has given Robertson a shout at pinching it after all. Nothing safe.
Looks like he's not playing it to the middle. Well, that's a better shot, I guess, but it was on to the middle, very thin. Maybe a lack of control, because he wouldn't have known really where the cue was going. So you feel that this is, as you say, a seismic frame is a good way of describing it. Because it's been a tale of 2 shots missed, 1 from each player in this match. The red earlier of Jack Jones, the blue in this frame, which may not cost him. So he's going to have to pick up the pieces here.
That was a great red to get in from Robertson. A view from the gods here at the Crucible. Becomes a much bigger venue, doesn't it, when the curtain's up? Incredibly intimate when it's down. The crowd almost on top of the players, which just cranks up the tension.
12.
But this frame feels extremely significant, not just in this session, but perhaps in terms of the way the match maps out from here, because Robertson looked like he'd blown this frame when he missed the blue.
14.
But Jones lost position and then played an uncharacteristically loose safety. But what a terrific pot it was from Robertson to get back in.
16.
Well, that wasn't a brilliant shot, was it? I mean, you'd fancy him for this, but obviously he shouldn't really be this far away from the green. He's going to play to get onto the brown into the same pocket, so this could go wrong. Oh, well played.
19.
Very calmly dealt with that. That could have been another stumbling block in this frame, and he could have been back in with a chance. So he's got regrets despite being 4-2 up, maybe 4-3, Jack Jones, I feel.
Most definitely, because this was a big chance to punish
23.
Robertson for the missed blue, and in the process put him 3 clear and a guaranteed 2 frames clear at the end of this session. It would have really increased the heat on Robertson for the last, but now he's eyeing the possibility of being level at the end of this session, and that would be a great result for him, a frustrating one for Jones. And he only needs the pink to make that happen, to get back to within 1. This for 4-3. A big, big frame. The second big frame that Robertson has won in this session. Another big one that Jones has let slip. How important will that be at the end of this match? In the meantime, Jack Jones' lead shaved to 4-3. Fascinating stuff here in the opening session of this 25 frame match. First to 13, of course, to go through. And you could make a case for Neil Robertson actually being the happier of the two, even though he's a frame behind, because he's won 2 frames that he could easily have lost. And that could come back to haunt Jack Jones. He's played some very good stuff, but he'll be kicking himself, won't he, Neil, for not taking the chance after Neil Robertson missed that blue.
Yeah, he'd be quite happy, but I'll tell you one thing, if he got to 4-4, he would be ecstatic with that. He really would, because, I mean, he's won 2 frames. He seems to be chasing the game all the while, and, you know, even 5-3 down would not be as bad as it sounds. Clearly, he's playing a good match player, but this last frame will tell us a lot more about the state of mind of both players when they do end up walking off after this session ends.
One more frame to come then in this first session. They're back this evening at 7 o'clock UK time. And what a big frame it is. Particularly now, I think, for Jack Jones, because he was within sight of a 5-2 lead just now. Played a loose safety. Great red from Robertson, a trademark long red to get in, and coolly cleared to the pink to shave the gap to just 1. And if he could win this 8th frame, well, he'll be absolutely delighted to emerge from this session unscathed. And for Jack Jones, there'd be a sense that he'd missed the boat. But if he can win this one, 5-3, then all to play for this evening, obviously. And of course, this afternoon, fascinating session underway between Ronnie O'Sullivan and Hossein Vafai.
Yeah, looking forward to the first 8 frames of that one. It'll be a terrific match, never mind all the other things that have been said. You know, those two. I mean, Hossein was brilliant in his first round match, second session. Anyway, massive frame, this one.
Thank you. It's the 8th and final frame of the session. Neil Robertson to break.
Yeah, this is another test of Jack Jones' temperament, which, as we've been talking about, has been impressive throughout his run through the qualifying, and then of course the victory over Carter. But he's lost 2 frames he'll feel he should have won in this session. Could still emerge from it with a very useful scoreline, but can he get the disappointment of missing the boat in the previous one out of his system quickly? Reds like that will help.
Very clean, wasn't it? It's wobbled a few that have dropped in. That one flew in. Doing it again. There's a terrific red. That was a very difficult yellow. But, you know, you almost have to admire the fact that he went for it, in a way. It wasn't an easy or very sort of meaningful safety shot on. He hasn't presented Robertson with chances very often in this match, but he's kind of half done it here.
1.
Just see a little bit of a head shake from Jack Jones. You'll know that this session is... the chance to get a dominant session is slipping away now. And if it was to go 4 each, I think Robertson would have a real spring in his step, because he will have completely weathered the storm. It was a pretty ferocious storm as well early on. He wasn't getting a shot. He was doing a lot of sitting down. Jones was controlling it, playing well, playing deliberately.
Yes, and he didn't show any real frustration about that in the first 3 frames, but he was livid when he missed the blue in the previous frame, because he was, I'm sure, fully expecting Jones, the way he's cued, to punish him and take a 5-2 lead. So
8.
that was something of a bullet dodge by Robertson. And now he's looking to take maximum advantage of that reprieve. Get out of this level.
$15. $16.
Good shot that is, and he's got a clear shot at the red. The cue ball zipped through them here. Just watch the cue ball. It sort of has a secondary go at the reds. Lots of backspin and hard stun.
$24. $29.
Looks a bit mystified as to the fact the cue ball didn't really travel around the angles as he thought, and look where he's finished, in the worst place. I don't think anything pots. Again, it's kind of the story of the session for him. It's the odd situation of it's a run aground here. So he hasn't won the frame here, but it did appear that he was going to at one point, or certainly give himself a chance to. Now it's another safety shot.
Neil Robertson, 29.
A long way off the pot. Clearly difficult. Chance for Robertson. One good red here, and he'll be back in business. Already 28 in front. No. Well, that's a surprise again. I mean, it wasn't a gimme, but it was one you'd certainly expect Robertson to get. He certainly expected to get it.
Yeah, it was one of those, again, that might have dropped in on a different day. I mean, you see this and you think it might just fall into the pocket. But not quite. I mean, it was more difficult than the blue that he missed in the previous frame. What a chance he's presented here now. Again, another potentially big moment. This one that Jack Jones can't afford to relinquish.
Yes, that's the point, isn't it? Because the two biggest moments of this session have both gone Robertson's way. Frame 4 and the previous one.
Six.
Okay, well, it's catching, isn't it? Both players have missed. And as this time has he got safe? No, he hasn't. So the significance of Robertson's miss into that pocket, which seems to be a bit of a jinx pocket for them both, it mightn't be as important, perhaps, as it could have been. So Robertson quickly back to the table, and surprisingly.
One.
Overscrewed. But it's not too bad. I mean, obviously, he's coming away from the Reds a little bit. And he's probably going to have to play his next shot at certainly middle range. Feels a very big frame now, doesn't it? I mean, we're so far away from the winning line of 13. But as far as players walking off and reflecting on the day, Neil can play better.
Six.
But he's already won 2 frames that he could easily have lost with clearances.
That's the point, isn't it? Robertson is the firm favourite for this second round match.
Seven.
He's not been at his best by any means. It's been a bit of a mixed bag, really. Some good and some not so good. But in those circumstances, you feel that Jones needed to take a lead at the end of this session, and that's now in jeopardy. And he's had chances to do that. Not great, though.
No, it isn't. It is not great. And
14.
Sort of, I think the frustration continues for Robertson because a few times that sort of thing has happened this afternoon. So I don't see how he can continue this break unless he's going to go for something to the middle. It looks horrendously difficult. I feel that he's just going to have to walk away from this. So I think just put the cue ball to the black cushion underneath it and forget your frustrations. There's nothing else you can do. It's the worst thing you can do is chase it.
14.
This game. If you play a shot and you fall out of position, you just have to quit, take your medicine. If you try and chase the break, play a shot to retrieve it that is pretty low percentage, then you make things worse. think he'd prefer to not to have to play that that right-hand red, really. I mean, it is one of the safer balls on the table, and he's got a lead of 36. Well, there is a red out in the open and by the pink spot, and he's taking it on into this middle pocket where so many shots seem to have been missed. And there's another one. Goodness, that's a tight pocket, isn't it? That reacted rather strangely. I mean, this, I felt it mightn't go in, but just look at, the red went all across the face of the pocket. Extraordinary that it stayed out at that speed. He can't believe it.
Not a trace of curl into the pocket, which you would expect, wouldn't you, with any degree of nap on the table?
Yeah, nap. There's no nap on these tables anymore. I mean, to explain what Philip is saying, is that you see that beautifully struck red going. You know, on the thicker cloths, the nap, the sort of the cloth sort of faces one way down the table. So if you were hitting one to the far jaw, it would pull naturally down, and you would aim that way. And there's nothing wrong with the table. That's just the way it is. But on these tables, they go straight. That one did not move down at all. It's amazing that that stayed out. That left middle is tight, really tight.
And this is beginning to look like a very satisfactory session for Neil Robertson, given the start he made. He was subdued at the beginning, lost the first 3 frames. His long game wasn't there. He missed 1 or 2. He wouldn't normally.
16.
Jack Jones was playing very solidly. Better than that, in fact, particularly in the second frame when he made 122. And then the session started to turn when Jones missed a red on 46 in the 4th when he was set for 4-0, and then clearly Robertson had problems. Instead it was 3-1 and then 3-2. And then 4-2 and a clear chance for 5-2 after Robertson missed a pretty routine blue into the left centre. But Jones lost position, played a loose safety. Robertson cleared up. And although the 2010 world champion missed again in this frame, a red to the left centre, it has not proved to be expensive, and he will be way, way happier
24.
than his opponent at this scoreline, which now looks likely to be 4 each.
Yes, if one more red goes in, I think that's where we will be, 4 each. So he'll carry on here. It is 1 snooker, but likely to be all square, which will be a triumph for Robertson, I think, more so than Jones on the balance of play.
Yes, it was looking likely to be 5-2, and then, of course, Robertson's under a lot of pressure to win this final frame, but at 4-3, the pressure was on Jones to make his slight superiority in this session overall be reflected on the scoreboard, and that now looks unlikely. Especially now, that's the end of the frame.
I mean, you're right. The summary of the session is excellent. The fact is, it really should have been 4-0. He was 3-0 up, and you know that scenario where that red stayed out was unbelievable, to be honest. At that point, it looks like he's going to be 4-0 up, and who knows what might have happened from then on in. But Robertson has dug himself in pretty well. He has missed a couple, as Philip said, and you know there's all to play for when they resume later. But Jack Jones has played pretty well and not got anything to show for it. Robertson, no 1-4-6 breaks or anything today. It's been more of a fight against a good match player in these opening frames.
11. 12.
Well, we'll have a few hours off to digest what's happened in this first session. Back this evening at 7 o'clock UK time for another bout of 8 frames. But I think Robertson will have the greater spring in his step at the end of this session, because he's played some way below his best, and certainly a long way below the standards he set,
18.
which were sky high against Wu Yize.
Foul.
But he's emerged unscathed, and that's what it's all about here at the Crucible. When you have an off session, come out of it without any damage, and he's done exactly that. And for Jack Jones, certainly some frustration that he hasn't taken a lead into tonight's resumption. As it